Hi folks, welcome to your mwis Friday Planner in association with Ellis Brigham. We've got a mixture of weather conditions over the next week or so, but often fairly quiet patterns as high pressure is nearby. We will see some windier days, particularly across northern regions again, with some fronts coming through to give generally small amounts of rain or upland snow. Temperatures will vary, some days feeling quite mild, other days chillier and sub-zero, and ground conditions across the higher mountains will still see some areas of snow and ice, so do be aware of that if you're venturing onto the high tops. Now, Saturday is one of those weather days where there's not a great deal going on the map, but a few subtle complexities to consider. A few drizzly showers just around the west coast of Scotland, one or two may just form around the west of Wales, as we've got a general south to southwesterly flow. Wind speeds fairly light, but could be gusty in places. There will be some variations of low cloud and fog. Let's pick up that story first thing, and we'll see fog across the south of Wales and the Midlands and around some valleys across northern England as well, with the hills and mountains poking through any of that lower level stuff as shown by the darker colours on this map. More extensive cloud across Scotland, but even here some variations where some hill slopes may be above or between cloud layers, and it's generally more broken toward the northeast. Again, some mist and fog patches could be around in some of the glens. Now, damp and drizzly conditions with low cloud will hang on across west and southwest Scotland much of the day. We'll hang on as well to some sunshine into the morning for North Wales and likely around across the Pennines and the lakes for a good part of the day, but be aware across the Peak District that we'll see some low cloud starting to encroach from the Midlands as time goes on, so things may start to fill in here, and that cloud filling in a bit more widely across Wales. It will be quite variable then onwards into the afternoon for Wales. Some breaks maybe just coming through, but often covering the hills for lengthy periods. And the cloud too across the west and southwest Lake District may start to roll in onto some of the fells. The North Pennines probably getting away until the end of the afternoon. But the cloud stays fairly extensive across Scotland. Again, north and east, best chance for breaks and higher cloud bases. Some drizzly conditions across southwest Scotland may just also drift into the Western Lake District later in the day. A relatively complicated story in terms of temperature as well. We'll start off generally above freezing on many hills, but across western Scotland we'll be hovering around freezing point even from around 800 metres upwards, and there's not going to be a huge amount of change of temperature with increasing height. Some high tops starting warmer than the valleys, particularly where there's some frost around, and that's most extensive over England and Wales in the morning. Now, as the day goes on though, temperatures on the hills will tend to fall near to freezing point then by the end of the afternoon for many places above around 900-1,000 metres, and that similar freezing level will take us overnight and into Sunday. Something of a cold front comes down from the north, so that level may drop below 800 metres for northern Scotland into Sunday morning, maybe just a bit higher toward the central belt. It stays sub-zero then for northern Scottish mountains through Sunday. I suspect across England and Wales will go back above freezing point though by a degree or so at least through the daytime. Terrain then on the high tops, in places quite icy, and some snow patches will still be there. Some precipitation to come then for a spell overnight into Sunday as a front comes down from the northwest. That will fall as snow for a while across the high tops. Don't expect a huge amount from this. I think the front will break up fairly quickly as it passes southwards. Bit of uncertainty on timing as that runs in across northern England. It could be a rather cloudy and murky morning for many places. That sinking southwards most likely and fizzling out into the middle of the day and the afternoon. So brighter skies forming for northern England. It may take a bit longer for Wales, just again depending how soon that front is pushing south. It could just fill in some cloud and some drizzle for a spell. Meanwhile for Scotland, a westerly wind will bring some showers in mainly to the northwest. Best cloud breaks, best sunshine across the central and southeastern highlands. So Sunday's map looks something like that. High pressure is starting to build again from the west. We have a westerly breeze across northern regions. That could be up to gale force even at times across northern Scottish mountains. Rather gusty as well for spells across northern England around that front. High pressure has built fully back in across the country into Monday then. We have a frosty start for many places to Monday morning in the valleys and the glens, but with an inversion forming once more, the hills and mountains are likely to be above freezing point, perhaps by several degrees through Monday daytime. A lot of sunshine to be found, and we've got quite dry air that's expected to be over the country by this stage. 1 or 2 mist and fog patches, a few local cloud banks possible just near to the west coast of Scotland. But overall, I suspect it's a fine day across the hills and mountains on Monday with excellent visibility. Just a strengthening south-southwest wind later on, and maybe even a brisk northerly across northernmost mountains for a good part of the day. England and Wales, though, very little wind under the centre of the high. Things start to move on by Tuesday as the high drifts southeastwards and we open the door to a damper air mass coming in from the southwest, so some rain, some drizzle, most persistent across western Scotland, maybe a few patches drifting into central regions, bits of drizzliness and low cloud too for western hills of England and Wales, mainly dry for East Wales, the Peak District and a good part of the Pennines, best of any cloud breaks toward the eastern regions. A breezier day too, southwesterlies which could be up to gale force and quite gusty in places over the Highlands. Looks like it stays windy across Scotland in particular into Wednesday. Again, could be some gusts to gale force in places. A front coming through which may be fairly weak, but the risk of some persistent areas of rain, turning to hill snow across the northwest as temperatures start to come down as the wind direction changes once again. A fairly mild day for England and Wales, some low cloud and drizzliness on some western hills, but amounting to very little, and some brighter spells the further east that you go. Temperatures then overall in the second half of the week are expected to fall as that airflow just tips towards the northwest. We're likely to see another area of high pressure start to build to the west of us, so a fairly settled outlook is likely late in the week, with mostly dry and fine conditions, some sunshine around, that high expected to build quite strongly by the time we get to next Friday. So we're back into some inversion conditions in places where the hills and mountains will be above freezing point, the valleys and the glens will see some frost overnight, and it's a generally settled picture. Toward next weekend, a bit like recently, that high may drift southwards to allow a stronger wind to affect Scotland. That may just bring some low cloud into western regions. Still a largely dry story for many places, though. The best scope for inversions next weekend is going to be further south across England and Wales. We'll watch the detail, but overall it does seem as though a fairly settled story takes us into that weekend. Stay up to date with all your local information every day on the mwis website. That is your Friday planner in association with Ellis Brigham. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.